Welcome in.
BVB After Hours.
125.
Tonight we have Kyle Youmans from DallasCowboys.com.
Live from Cowboys training camp.
Eagles didn't practice today, so we don't have much to talk about.
And coming up on TikTok, we have Offensive Player of the Year.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones. Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there. There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach. That
Be
it?
the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 125 of Birds vs. Boys. This is episode 4 of season 3. The Cowboys have played a preseason game. The Eagles have played a preseason game. Both teams have lost, but in much different ways, I think we could say. Cowboys are at joint practices with the Chargers, and the Eagles will be out in Cleveland for joint practices and a game in Cleveland. We're going to dive all into that. We're going to go a little bit around the NFL like we always do. We have a guest tonight, but for all of that, here's my main man, Aidan, with the technical notes. But before we get there, Aidan, as usual, how are you?
I'm great.
We're always on an up and down roller coaster. It's either, I never know.
Yeah, I've never been like, I'm all right. I'm okay.
Yep.
I'm always like, this is the best, or I want to die. There's usually no in between. I'm great. Because last week we talked about, we were like, all right, we just need real football now. We need the actual season. But we're in that sweet spot of fantasy football draft season. And that for me is like Christmas. So that gets me to the actual football season, is just doing these deep dives.
That reminds me, and I have, I don't know how illegal this is, but I have a draft next Thursday night at 7:00, which is peak. I'm giving a bottle to a human time. I mean, can you make my first round draft pick for me if I give you my login?
Definitely. Yeah.
I have the 4th pick in a 12-team PPR.
Yeah, but listen, I can make your first round pick, but we got to talk about your dedication. Is Emma, she just doesn't have the volume that Christian McCaffrey is going to have this season. So it's like, where do your priorities lie?
I mean, it should be your mom's job to give her the food, right?
It might be on Thursdays.
I already said about that. So, but I've been lacking on I'm usually like you. I love fantasy football. I love studying. I get actually get real magazines, but this year, there's a human that's kind of taking up time. Look,
ta-da!
Look, that's what I need.
I pulled one right 10 inches from me. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. We're ready for the season, but this is just like the perfect bridge to the season. So it's great. And I think we're bridging ourselves to the season with this show. Technical notes. I can't wait to run through actual technical notes tonight. So tonight, we're back on the interview train because the season is starting. Kyle Youmans of DallasCowboys.com, our friend, our brother, our colleague, will be on the show. He is live, boots on the ground at Cowboys training camp. They're doing joint practices with the Chargers ahead of their game. Oh, speaking of the game, guess who's doing the play-by-play? That would be Kyle this Saturday night. So we talked to him about everything he's seeing at camp so far, plus everything he expects from the Cowboys this season. So we're pretty excited to talk to him again. Also, speaking of fantasy football, we did a fantasy football mock draft last night. It is now live on our YouTube, so you can go check that out before you have your draft. I think we're going to do a few of those. We just did 8 rounds to keep it simple for you, but kind of just going over all the guys that we like this year. So take a look at that. And then for our TikTok tonight, we did MVPs last week, so we're going to do Offensive Player of the Year candidates tonight. And that is the technical notes. I ran through that so smooth. I am so back.
That was perfect. We are all the way back. And
I want to get the actual ads to read. I am going to be so professional. I'm going to be like the guy on the car sales commercial.
I think we should just start doing ad reads for different companies and then just sending it to them. And then be like,
yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. Just be like, listen, we'll do. Listen how good we Yeah.
Yep.
Well, this sounds professional. Listen to us do this.
And then just wait till our brand doesn't want some others on when we're that big. Little guy. The little guy always remembers. All
Little
right.
guy.
So always remembers. Little guy, big brain. That's what I say. I
Little
want to
guy,
thank
little
you, Eddie and Vince. You, Eddie and Vince, for holding down the fantasy draft. Apologize that I could not be there once again. You know,
We had a good time.
yeah, it looked. I watched on the YouTube. It was fun. I'm trying to steal some strategy.
Don't steal from
who
us.
was
Steal
your-
it from the computers.
Yeah, true. Who was your first pick in your actual draft in your home league?
So we do the first round. You get to keep one player from last year's team, and that serves as your keeper, or as your first round. Your keeper serves as your first round pick. So mine is technically Debo, since I kept him from last year. My actual pick, like physical pick that I made, was Aaron Jones.
Love it. Great pick.
The only issue that I had, I like my team a lot. So the issue that I had, we played this awesome game for Draft Determiner. If you've ever played Spoons, it was like the most fun that I've ever had. Like we could have played that the entire night and I would have been fine. So we did that and I did pretty well in the game. So like in terms of like draft order, I got to choose my spot third. So first and second were taken. So I was like, all right, let me be at the back so I can get the, on the turn. I like having that turn on the curve. I get like pick 7, but then it turns around and I get to pick again real soon. Or like picking dead last also works. So I didn't think anything of it. And when I left the house, my dad was like, well, who do you want to draft? And I was like, well, I want Justin Jefferson because if I can't have him in real life, I could at least have him in fantasy. But I said to him, there's just no way he doesn't get kept. So I don't have my hopes up. He didn't get kept. I don't know what happened, but he didn't get kept. And I could have had him if I would have chosen a different
spot.
He lasted all the way to 5th. If I would have just chose 3rd, 4th, 5th, anything, I would have been in. I chose the back.
That's okay. So Debo's going to go off. He'll be fine. And so is Aaron Jones.
It's just not meant to be for me to ever have Jefferson.
Speaking of fantasy football as well, last point here before we move on to the Eagles Cowboys. So I was out to lunch yesterday for work outside in King of Prussia. Honey Grow, place delicious. But there was
I know exactly where that is. I work out at the LA Fitness next door.
Oh yeah, right in the little market there. So there's a little table outside next to us with 3 guys and a girl. They definitely all work together. You could tell all 3 guys had a crush on the girl. She was very cute. And they're trying to explain to her fantasy football, and they were like going into all in depths. And she was just like, I'm like, just looking all around. She's like, oh, that sounds fun. I'm just sitting there. I'm like, guys, what are we doing right now?
It's like hitting on the cart girl and talking to her about golf. Like, no, just don't.
Yeah,
no,
it's not. And like they were each trying to give their reasoning of why their strategy, and they were at the same time giving the strategy, trying to impress her with their skills. And I was like, this is not the spot here.
Yeah, there's nothing she cares about less than whether you're going to get Naji Harris in the second round. Trust me.
And this girl knew nothing about football.
Yeah, it's like she's like, I just want my honey grow.
Yeah, can I just eat my salad, please? All right. But that's what fantasy football does to us. And the youngins, they just don't know yet. Just don't know. But all right, let's jump in a little bit here. Before we go Cowboys Eagles, one thing I want to talk about is Derwin James. I think you and I absolutely loved him coming out of the draft.
Correct.
As a Cowboys fan, it came close. I didn't think I had a shot, and I think it was like 3 picks away, and that was the Leighton Vander Esch year. And I still wondered to this day if he was on the board and Leighton Vander Esch was on the board, what they would have done. But not there.
I think
he gets paid.
I think
they would have picked Vander Esch still.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm happy he went to one of our joint teams, which we actually have to make our final decision on that. But he gets paid. He's been holding out. Huh?
It's tough.
I know. Can we have 2?
I feel like, yeah, we might have to. We'll deliver it.
Yeah. One more. I say we have until week 1.
We have some time.
Yeah, we have some time. But I was very excited for him. I mean, I think he deserves it. Yes, he's been injured up and down, but he's just what an unbelievable player he is.
Aside from the injuries, which is a risk for everybody, worth every penny. And I think the Chargers are going to be so good. I think they really amped up that roster. Getting Khalil Mack from the Bears, I mean, this team's going to be awesome. It sucks that they don't have their own stadium yet. Apparently, they're building one a little bit outside of LA, which will be awesome when they have their like own home. Because this team like deserves an actual fan base. Like they're going to be really good, and it's going to suck if they're like really good and nobody cares. We'll care. Not that we'll go to a game, but yeah.
Yep. I love him. So congratulations to Derwin James. Aaron Rodgers also, this is good for you and your fantasy team, is basically shitting all over his receivers, saying the young guys are running wrong routes. There's a lot of drops. I don't know what he expects when he brings Randall Cobb back and they have Sammy Watkins there. Alan Lazard is their big number one. The kid out of North Dakota State hasn't even been able to play yet. He's been injured. So they signed Travis Fulgam, Eagles legend. Bring him in.
It would not be the first time somebody from the Eagles practice squad who flamed out with the Eagles went to the Packers and just had a brilliant career. Shout out to Rasul Douglas. So I could see that. And hey, Odell is out there. You can solve your problems. I liked the solution that Aaron Rodgers had as a fantasy owner of Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. He said that they both need to be on the field at all times. Totally agree. But also for your own sanity, probably just sign Odell.
Yeah. Well, or I get it. He's always injured, but like he was out with a pinky injury last year. And at this point, I feel like the going rate would not be high. Someone's got to sign Will Fuller. I mean, he still is a deep threat. He still is able to stretch the field when healthy. And okay, if you sign him for a vet minimum and he misses some games, who gives a shit at this point, especially if you're a team like the Packers or the Cowboys?
That's the one. There's got to be an inside story because didn't he get suspended for PEDs? And wasn't there like a question about his injury last year where they were like, wait a second, what? Wasn't there?
Yeah, because it was literally like a pinky.
Yeah. It was something like that. So I feel like there's backstory to why he's not signed. It's not just the injury thing.
Yeah. So we will see. Also, last thing around the NFL here, the whole Tom Brady thing. I think it's much less of a story than people are trying to make it out to be. Even some Cowboys rate like, I think we should talk about this. I think this might be a serious. Is he going to be available week one? Can we stop? Like he's on vacation.
He'll be there week one, but that's the guy who's like how many veterans did we see? Remember the Giants last year had like four veterans who came in. They're like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like it's just that time of year. Like if you have played forever and you show up to training camp, you're like mentally, I don't know if I can do this. Like I'm burnt out from doing this every year. He retired. Like he was burnt out. Came back and is now realizing again, I am burnt out.
Yeah. I don't know.
He'll be there.
I think he's going to be fine. Yeah. And he'll be fine. I don't know if he's going to have Chris Godwin or not. Godwin is practicing. He did 7-on-7s, coming off, I think he's 8 months removed from the ACL injury. So we'll see. I mean, he's going to be there. I think he's in Bora Bora right now or something with Giselle. Like they had a family vacation planned.
I know it is a crazy conspiracy theory, but it's really not. Like he didn't get to break his own retirement. He's the greatest player of all time. It should have been like his send-off, his story. He didn't get to do it that way. So he came back just to like be like, fine, then I'm not going to retire. I'm in control again. I'm going to play some more, and then I'll be in control of my retirement. So he basically did just to spite the guys who like announced his retirement. But also, he's not as dialed in as he was.
Yeah, no, he's not.
Also, he's almost a Dolphin. We forget about that. That was insane.
Yes. Maybe that's where he is.
Yeah,
that was funny too. That the point where he disappeared was the joint practices with the Dolphins.
Yeah, who knows? He's just waiting it out. Next year, he'll come back. Him and Sean Payton.
So we'll see. All right, let's get into a little Eagles. We'll go Eagles first, and then I'll touch on the Cowboys before we welcome in our guy Kyle Youmans.
All right, so we didn't really practice today because we have a joint practice with Cleveland tomorrow and then play Cleveland on Sunday. So what I've seen from the joint practices so far from other teams, not really thrilled. Just seems like we're going to end up fighting the Browns. That seems like all joint practices are.
Yep.
Darius Slay it was, I believe, Matthew Judon from the Patriots. Or no, Cam Hayward was like, joint practices are dumb. That's what he tweeted. And Darius Slay was like, facts, I agree. Which we haven't even started our joint practices yet. So the excitement level isn't that high for the players, I don't think. I think there's been a lot of fighting this year.
Yep.
You know, it's like classic two dogs on the same block, got to mark your territory, end up barking and biting each other. But no,
if something's taking any competitiveness out of anything that's left of the preseason games, it's these. Because I know the Cowboys for a fact, they're like, this is where we're getting our work done with our veterans, and they're not touching the field for preseason games.
Yeah. So that's probably what creates all the fighting is like, this is as close to 100% that they're going to be. Vince says, let Derek Barnett fight Deshaun Watson. Yeah. If you're going to have a late hit, this is the time to do it.
Oh,
like for once in your life, make the late hit reasonable. And it'll be the only time us as Eagles fans will finally cheer for a Derek Barnett late hit. So, I'm excited.
Jags fans, you sick fuck. You sick fuck. That's what they were chanting.
That's they're doing. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, God,
I wish it was a home game. Deshaun, imagine him in Lincoln Financial Field. That's just like, I was watching this. I was watching a Netflix preview today, and it was the little girl from You, but she's like more grown now, and she's like a psychopath little kid, and she just throws piranhas into a pool. That would be Deshaun Watson at Lincoln Financial Field.
100%. He wouldn't make it out.
So, yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes, but at the same time, just like don't get hurt. It's literally all I care about. Don't get hurt.
Yep.
Speaking of getting hurt, Miles Sanders is hurt. So again,
what is it now?
Hamstring, which it has been before. It's been ankle before multiple times. I believe it was also knee at one point. So I don't know what to do. Like he is what he is at this point. I feel like I've felt this way. Like but people, it was crazy to me that people this week when he got hurt, the question in like Philly media was, can you rely on Miles Sanders? And I was like, wait, we're just now asking that? I feel like I think that's been clear for 3 years that it's probably a no. Like, what do you mean? This is year 4. This is exactly what I expect. This is the exact level of reliance that I expect. This is the movie theater employee who, like, if his shift starts at 6:00, I know he's rolling in at 6:15. He's not cleaning the theater afterwards, and he may take a few tickets. Yeah. I was gonna say he's going to smoke in the back. He's not going to do rounds in the movie theaters. He'll clean up, like he'll take the trash out. He's not going to sweep, but at least he'll take the trash out and take some tickets. Like he's not going to be the worst employee. He'll show up, not on time. He'll clean, not all of it.
But if the trash bag rips as he's bringing it to the trash can, he's not picking all the trash up.
And Boston Scott have to come in and clean up the rest.
Yep.
Boston Scott is the guy who just like periodically comes into theater and checks. Like,
it's just like
there's always a Boston Scott game every year.
He's going picking up the cups that are in the cup holders.
Yeah, so when he left half a soda, he tasted one of them to see what it was.
And he's the guy. He's definitely the guy that like he gets the crumpled up thing and he's in the theater and he just chucks it and he gets it in the garbage can every time.
Yeah, or playing with the empty popcorn bowl. He's throwing the
the
napkins and stuff in there.
Yep.
Tasting 100%. The extra sodas, seeing what the kids have.
Hey, I saw your head coach wearing a Kenny Gainwell shirt, not a Miles Sanders shirt. So
I love Kenny Gainwell. But I just don't think he's a 3-down back. He just never was. That's just like not what Memphis produces. Like Washington, like the Antonio Gibson thing. I don't know. Not great reports coming from there. But Memphis is just they just don't create 3-down backs, but they create valuable running backs. Like Tony Pollard, right? Same thing. Burst, kick return.
I think he could be a 3-down back.
He could. Like they should use him more, but you would never use him in a role like Naji Harris, Dalvin Cook, Zeke. Like you would never use him like that. Like he can play, but durability wise, it's the like everything about him as a running back, change of pace, shiftiness, quickness, speed is all there. The durability is not.
Yep. I mean, he had the plantar fasciitis last year, but yes.
Yeah, there you go. And that's like a usage thing.
How big do you think Tony Pollard is?
5'9", 5'10". Like weight or height? Is he?
Yeah. Both. Yeah. He's 6 foot. He's bigger than people think. He's 6 foot 215.
Okay. So 5'11", 205.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, so true.
Yeah, so I think the biggest story right now is the non-story of whether Miles Sanders is reliable, because he's not. It's just
He's not.
He's reliable to a point. So
Yep.
I think that everybody was pretty pleased with how the preseason game went. They lost because third stringers lost the game, but when the starters were in, they played a series, they scored a touchdown, the defense was in, they did well. Unfortunately, Zach Wilson got hurt. That sucks a lot.
What are we doing? But
yeah,
who was chasing him down? The big man.
Yes, that was the craziest part. I was like, was that Jordan Davis? Like, because they kept showing the replay of him getting hurt. I was like, wait a second. I know this is not what I'm supposed to be paying attention to, but is that Jordan Davis? All the way down the field?
Yep.
And it was like
rumble.
Everybody was like doing the film breakdowns from the game, and they're like, look at Nakobe Dean, and they're like, now watch this play where Jordan Davis blows everything up, so the running back has to cut it back outside, and Nakobe Dean is there. I was like, wow, no shit that happened. I only watched that 100 times at Georgia. Who would have thunk it? How'd
best
that
players
happen?
From the best team. Interesting.
Crazy strategy. I was just like, thank God that this played out the way that I expected it to. Keep doing it, please.
I hope you just go to sleep at night, every night like this. And just like, I do.
I literally do. I just think all the time. And now that they're actually playing games, it's like, I did it.
Yep.
Like, they're here.
I think we need
I did.
I think we need Vince to cut up from every one of our mock drafts of you like begging them and telling them exactly what to do, and then that happening.
I think we did. I think we put together a video. Yeah. Vince did do that. I'll put it out again. Once Jordan Davis does something crazy, like, well, it seems like he's going to do it a lot, but yeah, we did a video where it was just like me begging for Jordan Davis and then it happening. And also Nakobe Dean. And there's like one clip in it where I'm like, I want Nakobe Dean, but I also want Jordan Davis, and I don't know if I can get both. And then but guess what? We got both.
And AJ Brown.
Does that happen?
Oh God.
Oh man, we're gonna have some fun this year. There's like guys on the team that I'm like, oh yeah, we do have that guy. Like James Bradbury, like left practice with like a little injury bug thing. I was like, wait, we have James Bradbury. I forgot.
Yep.
Oh,
how's that safety from San Francisco you signed playing?
I haven't heard a lot about him. People like Marcus Epps though.
Yeah.
So that's good. I don't think safety's going to be very good this year, to be honest.
Yeah.
They are what they are. We are who they thought.
Who we thought they were.
The good and the bad.
Yep.
Like first preseason game, it was everything you expected. The Georgia guys played well. Dallas Goedert scored a touchdown, beat the guy, and Kazir White played well. It's like, that's what I expected. Also, the safeties might not be good. Like, I don't know. It's just how it was.
That's just is what it is.
It is what it is. Mm-hmm. So I think that's all I have Eagles-wise. I'm sure we will have a lot more after joint practices. We got caught at a bad time. Like, we're recording, and then they go to joint practices. Next time, we got to talk to Sirianni and see if we can get this squared away.
Flipped up a little bit so he knows our bit.
Yeah.
Our
do it like how the Cowboys are doing it. We're literally talking to a guy who's literally walking off the practice field to talk to us. The Eagles should be doing. Yeah. So let's talk about that. You guys are in LA.
Yeah. So last week in Denver for joint practices in the preseason game, they got their butts whooped in the preseason game. Backup quarterbacks looked horrendous. Cooper Rush just isn't it. I think Will Grier is going to win this job simply because he wasn't playing because he was hurt and he just wasn't bad.
He was awesome at West Virginia.
Yeah, and he's everybody has said that he's been the second best quarterback in camp. So looking forward to see hopefully a new backup quarterback this year. The penalties was obviously still an issue. 17 penalties in a preseason game coming off their last game. We saw them play in the playoffs against San Francisco where they had 14 penalties. Now I understand most of the starters did not play. So some people are like, calm down. It wasn't starters, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but it's the mentality of a team. It's the coaching staff. We keep talking about too many penalties. And they also kept talking about last year, they were just tougher than us. They beat us up. And the same thing happened in Denver through the practices, through the game.
Yeah.
They were out physical. So the two things we talked about last year that ended the season, penalties and being out physical, both showed again in the preseason game. Like nothing changed. I don't give a shit that it was second, third, sixth stringers. Be tougher. Don't commit penalties.
Also, you'd think you'd be building a roster with like the back end guys who are just like, all right, they're just gonna bite kneecaps, as Dan Campbell would say.
Like Dan Campbell. So apparently, and we'll talk to Kyle in a few minutes about this. They seem to be tougher in the first day of Chargers day. The offensive line seemed to be playing a little bit tougher, and obviously they're going against Bosa and Mack there. It looked like Tyron Smith had up and downs against both those guys, and I think that's going to be Tyron Smith's year this year too, because he's getting older, and that's what he is. But there's definitely a lot of concerns on this team, whether it be the offensive line, who's the swing tackle going to be, because Josh Ball hasn't looked good, the wide receivers. I would still say linebacker's pretty thin. So I'm interested to talk to Kyle. Like you said, he's got boots on the ground to see what's happening there. But, I mean, the penalties, I think, are still going to be an issue. Your guy, first-round pick, Tyler Smith, had ups and downs.
I was told by somebody that he stinks.
Paul, yeah, I'm concerned about the penalties. So the Cowboys are replacing the most penalized player in the NFL and Connor Williams with the most penalized player in college last year. So that's a good swap. I mean, why not?
Like, that's how you don't break cycles.
Yeah, I mean, why would you want to break the cycle?
I don't know.
But it is interesting. Before we get into the interview here, they were talking about on For Love of the Star podcast with my guy Brian Broaddus and Bobby Bell. And it's actually interesting. They are the number 2 sports podcast behind Go Birds. I guess the Eagles podcast.
Oh, wow.
They have like the Odyssey one. So they're 1-2. But they were saying how he's so strong that this was like a Tyron Smith issue as well in the beginning of his career. With the technique not being completely perfect, they aren't holding, but they're getting called for holding because they're manhandling people so much because they're so strong. It's really interesting. Had the breakdown that they did. I got to send that to you because apparently it's affected a lot of offensive linemen in the league for years, where their technique is okay and they're not actually holding. They just are so physically dominant that the refs are like, no, he's got to be holding. It's interesting.
I mean, I can see it. They're just throwing them around like rag dolls.
Yeah.
Like in semi-pro, when they had the first alley-oop, they were like, traveling.
Yeah.
Wait, it's not traveling.
That's not what?
Just, I don't know. My eyes aren't used to it.
Yeah. All right. But I could talk about the Cowboys all day, but I don't think there's a point of me just rambling on when we have an actual guy that's sitting there right now at camp. So you want to get into this?
Let's do it. We could not have Kyle at a better time. I'm so glad to reunite with him, first of all, on a friendship level. But second of all, live, walking off the practice field from joint practice with the Cowboys and Chargers to talk to us. And then when he's done talking to us, he's going to go prep to call the play-by-play for the Chargers-Cowboys game on Saturday night. So could not have it a better time to have Kyle on the show. So here he is, Kyle Youmans, presented by Stateside Pocket.
All right, Aidan, like we said, we are now joined by Mr. Cowboys himself, Mr. Kyle Youmans, boots on the ground in California for the Chargers and the Cowboys. Kyle, I got to tell you, like we said, since the last time you were on, I mean, you're everywhere now, right? You ran the draft show this year, which I want to say thank you again because I was stuck quarantined in COVID. And for the first time in my life, I either watched or listened to every single pick with you guys this year. I was that guy. Okay. I was that guy at the end where you guys are like, I just want to get off. And I'm like, give me more. Please. Yeah. So you did the draft show. You are doing pregame, postgame. You're interviewing Mike McCarthy. You're doing it all. And you got engaged. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah. It's been a wild ride. It's funny because, yeah, you're right. Usually by that point in the draft, I mean, we're going into like the 6th and the 7th round, and we're like, all right, like it's time to go home. Like this is getting ridiculous. And we usually put out a throw. We throw it out there and be like, if you're crazy enough to still be on with us at this point, we consider you a friend. And I do consider you a friend. But then I got a DM or a text from you, and you're like, hey, by the way, I'm here and I've been here the whole time. And I was like, why? Like, why would you do this to yourself? And it's like I get it. Like you're a diehard, but then you were like, oh, I've got COVID. And I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Makes sense.
I was like, you've got a wife and a child. Like you can't be doing this.
It was actually the perfect time to get going. It was great.
Oh man.
Oh, all right. So, like we said, you are actually there. You were in Denver last week. You've been at camp all camp long. So, first practice was today, joint practice with the Chargers and the Cowboys. So, give us a rundown of day one, the good, the bad, the ugly. What happened today?
Yeah, I think it was actually a solid practice. I really do. And last week was not solid by any stretch of the imagination. I thought Denver handily bullied the Cowboys on Thursday, and then they kind of carried that over, and they were sturdy. I don't think they bullied them during the game, but they were sturdy in that Saturday matchup in preseason week 1. So today was a good change of pace. I thought the Chargers, I mean, they're on paper as talented as any team in the AFC, and that's saying something. That's a division that's stacked up, and they're just as stacked as the rest of their division is, based off of especially the defensive side of the ball, man. I mean, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Kenneth Murray, who's on PUP, did not practice today. Derwin James, who was a little limited today as well. J.C. Jackson, who practiced. You got J.T. Woods, who they drafted out of Baylor, who was really high on the cast of the draft show. I mean, there's lots and lots of talent on that defense, and then especially on the offensive side of the football. I mean, where do you start but with Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen and a revamped offensive line? And I thought today was by far the best team practice the Cowboys had, because even when the Chargers were able to put together a little bit of a run and they had a couple plays here and there, Dallas bounced back. They didn't do that in Denver. They got put down in Denver, and they stayed down. That wasn't the case today. I thought the Cowboys turned things around. I thought they were efficient on the offensive side, borderline dominant on what I've seen on the defensive side. I had to go back and watch clips on the defense because we were doing training camp live on the offensive side of the field all day long. But based off of what I had heard, and then I went back and looked at the film, I thought the defense had a really, really good day, including a couple of picks, one from Israel Mukuamu, one from Terrell Basham. I mean, Micah Parsons was in the backfield a ton. It was a good day on both sides of the football, and it's something that I think the Cowboys are looking to build on tomorrow and then, of course, into the weekend.
It's interesting you mentioned both those names, because I think those are both names that are right on the bubble. I put out a tweet before. I really hope that Basham makes this team. And this defensive line is so deep that I think he's right on that list, right? He's going to be right on that 53.
Yeah, so it's tough because I mean, here, I'll even show this to you because I'm calling the game
that
this weekend. So I've got my
we know.
Awesome.
I've
got my chart. So, I mean, look at this defensive line. I mean, you got Dorrance Armstrong, Terrell Basham, Quentin Bohanna. I didn't even have room to put Bohanna in the middle here. I had to move him to the side. I know he's not an edge rusher. He's going to be on the interior, but there's just not enough room. Osa Odighizuwa, look at this. Tristan Hill's a second-round pick, a guy who's had a really good camp. He barely gets a line. And I feel like this is a great representation. All of these guys here are on the team at the moment, but who knows? Dante Fowler Jr., he's a one-year deal. He could potentially be moved on from. John Ridgway he's a late-round pick. I think Chauncey Golston's a phenomenal addition to the interior of the defensive line, but there's just a visual of what this defensive line situation looks like. They're only going to take 8 to 10 guys. I mean, possibly 9 if they wanted to go stretch somewhere else. There's some tough decisions on the horizon coming up here over the next couple of days because, I mean, you got roster cut downs next week. You got to cut it down even more. And then, of course, you're trying to build your practice squad. There are guys that are on this team that don't look like they would make the roster, but they will make an NFL roster. Somebody will pick them up and claim them. It's really interesting.
That's what I heard Bobby Belt talking this week. He goes, anybody on this defensive line that is not on this team will be on an NFL roster this season.
I agree. I completely agree. Because if you let's say you cut Tristan Hill, he's got strong hands. He's been around for a little bit. A team down the road Would love to have a Tristan Hill as a 3 technique, or maybe even throw him as a nose, like a smaller athletic nose. You could throw him in there, maybe a 5 technique. I mean, there are defenses across the NFL that are using 4 down linemen and they're moving guys around the defensive line. Tristan Hill can do that. Whoever they cut coming up is not going to find themselves on a practice squad. They're going to find themselves on an active roster, and I don't think it'll take very long either.
Agreed.
All about finding those diamonds in the rough.
Philly's down here like, we could use some more D linemen. Let's go.
Oh, we stock up. We never have enough.
D-line,
We'll never have enough D-line. Oh, yeah.
All right, Jordan
let's
Davis,
flip it to the other side of the ball. What's that?
I said, all right, Jordan Davis, calm down over there.
Oh, my God. Kyle, I loved him so much. Like, that was my guy. Like, it never works out for me where I'm like, my guy.
We did a weekly mock draft every week, kind of like what you guys did, and we put it out, and he took Jordan Davis every single time. And then when it happened, I was like,
I couldn't talk highly enough on Jordan Davis. I mean, I really couldn't. I mean, he's a phenomenal tape. He was a great guy. I mean, we didn't get to talk about this prior to the draft, but during the draft process, I got to sit down with all the 30 visits and do a one-on-one with them. He was one of the favorites, man. He was so fun to talk to and go back and forth with. And he just has this personality that lights up a room. I mean, the viral video that he had last week about Cam Jurgens, and he was pushing Jurgens back and just mauling him as an offensive lineman, asked about it in a press conference. He's like, well, that clip went viral, but the clips where he won those reps against me didn't go viral. Put his teammate in the right spot. It's the same kind of identity that I think this Dallas offensive line is trying to get to as well. Philly has a really good core there. I think Dallas has a core just like that, and even better depth, I think, from a top to bottom standpoint.
Agreed.
Well, to be fair, my guy this year was Jordan Davis, but in previous years it was CeeDee Lambs and Micah Parsons. So it just feels good to win.
Yeah. You got
one.
Are doing something right too. Now with CeeDee Lambs, so you're live at practice. He wasn't as live at practice today. What do we know about his injury and the severity of it?
Yeah, I think it's just a laceration on the foot. I think he just cut his foot at some point. It's nothing that's going to be a long-term deal. It's just more so, hey, we want to be careful. It's CeeDee Lamb. It's the preseason. I think if there was a game, a regular season game around the corner, I think he would tape it up, they'd bandage it up, and then they'd play. I don't think it's anything severe enough to where it should be a long-term issue or even affect him later on. I mean, once it heals up, it's cut. Once it heals up, it's good to go. You can roll with it. So nothing to be worried about with CeeDee Lamb. It's a little unfortunate because you wanted him to be available for these 2 practices against the Chargers because he probably wasn't going to see any time against Seattle here in a week. So it's unfortunate, but also at the same time fortunate timing. So that way you don't even have to press the issue.
So what did the other cast of receivers look like then? Because it was no Lamb, no Gallup. So what? Houston's out there. Fajoko has been looking good. Noah Brown. I saw Turpin with a long touchdown, I think, catch today. So how'd all those boys look? Give me some hope.
You know, it was interesting, and I wrote an article. I believe it's on DallasCowboys.com at the moment, but it basically today was a depth day from the wide receivers because Jalen Tolbert didn't necessarily stand out. Simi Fajoko made a couple grabs. It wasn't anything special. He made one catch that was really nice and contested ball, and then he had another couple that were batted away in contested situations. So it wasn't just a standout day from Jalen Tolbert to Simi Fajoko. Same thing with Noah Brown. It wasn't flashy. He had one good play, and then he'd have a man play. It was just kind of a back and forth day. I thought Dontario Drummond, the rookie out of Ole Miss, undrafted free agent, and then Kevontae Turpin had their best days by far. I thought Dennis Houston had a good day today. So that was kind of what I took it at. It was a depth day. It was a chance for Turpin to show, hey, I'm not just a returner. I'm a wide receiver, and I deserve to be on the back end of this roster and maybe make some plays for you and kind of open up the playbook a little bit because previous to today, really the 90% of his usage in team drills has been on sweeps and has been on handoffs and just trying to get him the football. Today, he was able to stretch the field a little bit. He went sideline to sideline. He caught the edge one time. I mean, he had done some stuff like that in individual drills, but we had never seen it in team drills up to this point. And today, he made the play of the day. Cooper Rush dropped it in a bucket, sideline, toe tap grab, had both feet, reeled it in over his left shoulder before he was pushed out of bounds. It wasn't a touchdown, but it was on 4th down. And I'm going to post the clip at some point here in the next 20 minutes, probably when I get off of here. I'm going to post the clip so you can find that on my Twitter. But man, it was a phenomenal grab, one of the best grabs of camp so far, just because of how on point the throw was, the coverage was there, and him being 5'8", 5'9", still made the grab and made himself known. I thought it was a great day for Turpin, and I can say the same thing for Dontario Drummond as well.
So does Turpin look fast in person?
He's pretty quick. He's got some quick feet. See, that's the thing, is he's not like a long form speed guy. Mm-hmm. He's not one that's just going to blow past you and stay past you. He's a guy who's going to win at the line of scrimmage real quick, get a little bit of separation, and then if he has the speed advantage on you and he can kind of put his foot in the ground and change direction, that's when he's going to really find himself open. He did it today. There was like an out and up that he had at one point in practice. I don't know what the exact route was, but that's kind of what it looked like from my angle, where he kind of broke in, went right back out to the sideline, and then boom, he was up the sideline, and they were able to hit him about 15 yards down the field. Very quick developing route, and he was able to take advantage. I think that's what you would use him under a defense.
Tavon Austin
over the top. Yeah, a little bit. I don't think I mean, of course, he's not as big as Miles, but and he's probably not as polished of a route runner either, but it's a very similar situation. I would agree with that. Over the middle of the field, sideline, if he can do a little bit of motion and a little bit of movement to get there, but he's a solid receiver from the jump. He's got some great hands too. I think his hands have surprised me throughout training camp. But I thought, from a guy who hadn't been in the league before, had really kind of done this fan-controlled football and then USFL football, and then get to the NFL, he probably didn't have great hands. But no, he's smooth when he grabs it, makes the snag. He's great as a returner. He's super smooth when he reels the ball in. There's a lot to like about him. He's slowly climbing the list as a guy that I would have on the roster.
Yeah, I think he makes this team, and I think Houston does as well. All right, so I've heard a lot this offseason about the offensive line struggles, defensive line, the dominance, the wide receivers, who's there, the penalty issue, obviously, the other day. But I'm not hearing a ton, and we've heard a lot about Cooper Rush and Will Grier. How's QB1 looking? I'm not hearing a ton about Dak. Talk to me. Am I excited about 6?
I think it's good. That you're not hearing about Dak. Yeah. Because if you were hearing about Dak, it'd probably be like, oh my gosh, this isn't looking right. I think you're in a good spot. Hearing nothing is something is the way that you probably take the Dak Prescott situation. Today, he fit the ball in a couple of windows that were really tight. There was one in red zone up against Dalton Schultz where he fit it in a window with 2 guys, and Schultz was coming over the middle, and he put it right on Schultz's numbers, man. Couldn't have been a better throw. He's made some of those throws throughout the preseason, or I guess not preseason, but training camp, because he won't play in the preseason, I don't think. He's been more Dak than last year, at least back half of last year. He looks like he's first 7 weeks Dak again. He's going to be able to throw the football with a little bit of a velocity. He's able to fit it in the tight windows. He's been testing some things in practice today. He underthrew one receiver, got it picked off. There was one where he overthrew a guy. There was a 2-minute drill where he threw it to Zeke, and it kind of was underneath him, is kind of toward his waistline, his belly button, and it bounced off of Zeke, and it ended up being picked by Kyle Van Noy. So there's been his lapses, but I think overall, if it's not him testing something, he's been sharp and he's looked really good.
Love it.
I like that saying too. Saying nothing is saying something.
Yep.
I will try to utilize that going forward. give the tip of the cap to you on the way.
There you go.
Unlike in Philly, where Jalen Hurts every day is his completions are being tracked on Twitter.
But that's the thing. It's saying something there means there's no trust. I mean, there's no trust in Jalen Hurts, whether he's ready or not to be a franchise quarterback. You can tell just by the way that the fans react in Philadelphia whether or not Jalen Hurts is trusted by that organization. Dak Prescott's got the trust. They understand that Dak is going to do what Dak needs to do to be ready. And that's something that I think needs to be said is you don't sit here and chart Aaron Rodgers in preseason, in training camp. I'm not saying Dak Prescott's Aaron Rodgers, but I'm saying there's a level of trust that you have to attain to get to that point before you can really say, okay, maybe he's ready or maybe he's not ready. And I think Dak Prescott is ready for that challenge.
That's actually the perfect example of like quarterback evolution in the NFL, where Hurts is still at that point where every throw is going to be scrutinized because you just don't have as much wiggle room as someone as Dak, who has earned the wiggle room, or Aaron Rodgers or any of those guys.
Yeah, and Jalen Hurts isn't alone either. I mean, look at Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, look at even Trevor Lawrence. He was a first overall pick last year. If anybody's going to take a step as a second-year player, it's going to be Trevor Lawrence with a new coach, new opportunity, new weapons. They're still charting his throws. I mean, it's going to happen. It's the elevation of a quarterback. Dak went through it in the early years. It's just gotten to that point where it's like, okay, we know who he is. We know what he's going to bring to the table. We just hope it can continue and he can stay healthy.
And his receivers around him can stay healthy as well.
That's a big point. Good. I mean, you're in Philly, but you know what's going on.
Listen, I loved James Washington, and I was like, that's a great signing. Like, that's a great.
Well, we did that.
Wide receiver 3, and then just like gets hurt right away. That
was our fault.
Yep. Yeah, we talked him up and he immediately got hurt. So that's on us. Let's talk about the Denver game a little bit, because after last season, there was a point of emphasis for the Cowboys on attention to detail and cutting back on the penalties. And then you talk to Mike McCarthy directly at halftime and you say you have 9 penalties in the first half and they finished with 17. Is that a cause for concern? Or are you saying not a lot of the starters played and they didn't play for long? No reason to raise the red flag with the backup guys.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because here's the thing. I probably shouldn't have put the number first in that question, because he didn't necessarily like the way that was phrased. But ultimately, I was trying to see what he was learning about his team. Was he learning that something wasn't necessarily right? Was he learning that what they had emphasized previously wasn't working? That's what I was trying to ask. I wasn't trying to put a light and say, these penalties are unacceptable, which is kind of the way at least he looked at it. I think if this was a team that was middle of the road last year in penalties, if they were 15th in the league in penalties, and they came back and had 17 penalties in week 1, it would not even be a talking point. It'd be like, oh, wow, they had 17 penalties in a preseason game. It's a preseason game, especially the first one. Of course, there's going to be 17 penalties at some point. Like, it's just going to happen. It's not clean football. It's not starters. It's not like that.
The Patriots had 12. You never see that from a Bill Belichick.
Exactly. It's not a big deal in a vacuum. It really isn't. And in that game specifically, no, it's not a big deal. It's a preseason game. Doesn't really matter. It's the fact that you were the most penalized team in the league last year, and now you're the most penalized team in week 1. It's just deja vu from that standpoint. If you can correct that, great. You got a month. You got a month to correct it before September 11th. I mean, we're only 6 days past a month under a month until the Cowboys play the Buccaneers in week 1. You have time to build that discipline and build that to fix it. But in the first half, 9 penalties for 65 yards. And then you turn around, you have 8 more penalties in the second half for just as much, or I guess a little bit less than that yards. Ultimately, the question is going to be asked, why is this happening? Why are you ultimately doing or having these violations on your team so often, to where you were the most penalized last year and you're the most penalized in week 1 of the preseason? It's a question, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's an issue. It doesn't mean that it's a concern. I just think Cowboys fans right now, they have their antennas up to whether or not that's going to be a problem. And if it continues to be a problem, they'll point back to it and say, man, that week 1 of the preseason, that was just a red flag for what was to come. That's what you're trying to avoid if you're this Cowboys coaching staff.
And you did there was no friendly way to ask him that question, because the question had to be asked. I thought you did a good job.
I thought you did.
It came right after the field goal at the end of the first half, where McManus missed from 60. And then Kelvin Joseph was offsides. They moved it up 5 yards and he nailed it. And now your team's down 17-0. And you gave up 17 points in that quarter alone. Denver didn't score the rest of the ball game. All 17 points of their game came in the second quarter. and it was significant. Yeah, there was a little bit of anger there. I didn't expect him to be happy about the question, but I needed to ask the question because
Absolutely.
after a year ago and what you saw a year ago, this is a learning opportunity. I was trying to see what they learned, and ultimately that was the reaction that I got on the interview.
No, I loved it. I was happy you asked it. All right, last one from me. So we've talked about, parts of this team we're really excited about. Defensive line, I think safety is going to be good. I think tight end is going to be. Offensive line, I'm a little worried about here. Obviously, Tyron, aging, can be injured. My biggest question is the swing tackle for this season on the roster right now? Because what we're seeing out of Josh Bell has been very up and down.
Yeah, it has been. And I don't think if I were in the same shoes as the front office, I think I would be looking elsewhere for a swing tackle. But here's the thing, like I just said about the penalties, you still have nearly a month to figure it out. And Josh Ball, that was his first meaningful football game, live football reps that he's had since he played at Marshall, and he's playing Conference USA opponents. And I mean, instead of playing Western Kentucky, now he's playing the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. There's going to be a little bit of I guess, growing pain with Josh Ball. But is it going to be solved quick enough? That's my biggest question, is can he step up? I thought today, and I tweeted this out, I thought today he had his ups and downs. He won some battles, a lot of battles actually, with Khalil Mack. But then he would turn around and he would get destroyed by Khalil Mack. And that's the thing, is you got to limit those plays. You can limit the sacks as long as you can limit the pancakes as long as you're holding on to a guy and he can't get to the quarterback. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to destroy anybody on every play. Then, I mean, with that being said, I don't know if I'm confident that he will find it, but it's the fact that he could find it that at least is giving me a little bit of hope there. But man, you're right. I mean, with Tyron Smith missing as much time as he has, 20 games over the last 2 years, you would expect that to be a little bit more of a priority. They want these guys to step up and win this job. It just hasn't happened yet. You have a little bit of time to maybe get to that point, but it's still one of those things where hope is never a great strategy. You hope that they can take it. They just haven't done it yet.
That's the Chaz Green game always just names in my head.
Oh man, that was bad. Yeah, I don't blame you.
That was awful.
All right, last one for me. Yes, I do, because I have to check in on my guy. Regularly scheduled Micah Parsons question. I know he is a linebacker. He has played edge rusher, and I saw an image of him practicing in training camp with the quarterbacks. Is there any crazy ways this year that the Cowboys are going to utilize Micah Parsons?
Oh, man. I mean, outside of like maybe a running back situation, possibly. I mean, that would be the craziest thing. Dude, I haven't seen him kick, but I wouldn't put it past him. There's nothing I've seen. I mean, there's nothing that has told me he can't do anything. I mean, I think he could do everything. So, I mean, I would say realistically putting him in coverage, like making him cover a tight end or flip with somebody rather than running downhill, I think his coverage skills have gotten better and they've kind of utilized him in that regard. But in a non-serious standpoint, man, I think putting them in at running back in like a goal line situation would be super fun to watch. I mean, could you imagine Micah in number 11 just woof, and just wrapping up and just rolling? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that'd be scary. 4.4 speed and let it roll. Oh, my gosh.
Exactly. The speed, too, is like you could give it to him at the 20 and he could rip off a run. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Aidan, you watched him do it in high school.
Yep.
He was the running back on the high school team. So
yeah,
insane. All right, Kyle, before we get you out of here, plug away. Let everybody know how they can follow you on Twitter, where they can listen to you, the games you're going to be calling. Give us everything.
Show us the card one more time, too.
Oh, you want the card? Here, I'll get you the card one more time, too. So, so this weekend, calling the game, first ever play-by-play for the NFL. I do a lot of freelance play-by-play for college football and stuff. So, really exciting. What was that?
North Texas,
baby. Go Mean Green. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff with them. And so it's exciting to get the chance to call a game this week. I'm excited. It'll be me, Isaiah Stanback, Bill Jones in the booth. I'll even get to do a little bit of color and play-by-play. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything along with hosting the pregame show. So everything gets started at 8 p.m. Central Time. I know that's, what is that, 9 p.m. on
9
the
for
East
us,
Coast.
yeah.
So 10 is kickoff. So you're gonna have a late night if you're watching on the East Coast, but at least in Central Time and Pacific Time, you got no excuse. Make it work. But outside of that, at Kyle_Youmans, DallasCowboys.com. I'm on Talking Cowboys. I'm on the draft show. So plenty more to see. All right, show and tell time.
Who's number 48 on the Chargers? 48
What was
on the
that?
Chargers. Who is it? Who's number 48 on the Chargers?
Number 48 on the chart. I've got my other one in front. I don't have it memerized just yet. Actually, that's tough because they just cut that guy, and they just cut him. It was a linebacker, and they cut him. Or wait, where is it? And now it's Stone Smart. Apparently,
Stone Smart.
There's somebody else that they cut like yesterday. It was one of the first guys.
Awesome.
So yeah, here's the Chargers one. Got like the quarterbacks here, offensive linemen up here. This is I got to be like a weatherman doing this backwards. Got running backs, interior receivers, outside receivers, and then tight ends and stuff. And then I flip it on the backside, and you've got the whole defense too. So you got like defensive linemen, linebackers, secondary, all the way through. And then you got like their whole roster on this side with a little bit of like the schedule right here, coaching staff infos like right here, and then stats and stuff down that direction as well. So yeah, just a little.
You got to take that off the screen because seeing Asante Samuel Jr.'s name is just making me sad. So
apparently, I was talking with some of the guys today, and I mean, they were like, he hasn't really had the best camp. I mean, he's been solid. He played well last year, but it was actually Davis who had an interception in camp today. Michael Davis, who's had a better camp so far, and he's been a nickel, kind of played in that same role. But Asante Samuel Jr.'s kind of been hit or miss so far in camp, but it's actually been Michael Davis that's been pretty solid.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
Regardless,
there you go.
Cards are awesome. That was a great show and tell.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Kyle, go eat some dinner. Go prep for the game. I'll be listening. I'll be watching. We appreciate it, and we'll have you back later on in the season.
Yeah, sounds good. Always here
Awesome.
for you guys. Let me know if you need anything.
And congratulations again on everything, the engagement. We'll wait for our invitation in the mail. Together.
There you go. Sounds
Aidan
great.
will be my +1.
I'm Kevin's +1.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, guys.
A big thank you again to Kyle Youmans for joining us from Cowboys Chargers camps. Kyle, good luck on the play-by-play call this weekend, and we will absolutely be having you back this season. All right, Aidan, before we get out of here, we're going to have to bring Vince in to do our TikTok. What is the TikTok tonight, Aidan?
Tonight, since we did MVPs last week, let's do Offensive Player of the Year candidates tonight. We are going to do top 5 players for Offensive Player of the Year. Is that the best way to say it?
Yeah.
Candidates, players for Player of the Year. I don't know. Either way, here's the top 5 that we think are going to win.
5
Are
down to
we
1.
ready?
Let's go.
Cool. At 5, I've got Devontae Adams, new home with the Raiders, so I think he takes like a slight step back, leaving Aaron Rodgers. But at the same time, I still think he's going to be great, and I think they're going to force feed him.
5 for me, it's Jamar Chase. I think he's going to have a masterful year, but I also think the Bengals may take a tiny step back from where they were last year. They're riding on that high horse, making it to the Super Bowl. I think he's going to have a monster year. Hey, he says he's better than Justin Jefferson. I don't think he's that wrong. I think he's going to have a monster year, and he's going to be in contention for this award all season long.
Could you imagine if they played together?
Yeah, with one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Could you imagine that?
It'd be wild.
At 5, I have Tua. I know we said no quarterbacks, but feels like he kind of qualifies for non-quarterback offensive player of the year. I don't know why, but it feels like he does.
I think Dolphins fans would be really happy if that's the case.
Yes.
All right. At 4, I have Jamar Chase. Like Kevin said, maybe like a slight step back, but also Jamar Chase has just been awesome every single year and has never taken a step back ever in his career. So maybe not. Maybe he's just awesome. So at 4, I have Jamar Chase.
4, I have Justin Jefferson. Like I said before, Jamar Chase thinks he's better. Jefferson thinks he's better. Imagine if they played together. Interesting. I think he's going to have a monster year. However, Kirk Cousins.
So 4, I have Justin Jefferson. Again, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, new offense, but Kirk Cousins.
Classic. At 3, I have Cooper Kupp. This is one of those situations where he won the Triple Crown for receiving last year. So it's like tough where he like takes a step back, but not really because he's still going to be awesome. But it's just like an unattainable goal. So like maybe he takes a step back in people's minds, but probably not. I have Cooper Kupp in 3.
I definitely didn't forget Cooper Kupp.
3,
I have
your guys'
Austin.
faces.
3, I have Austin Eckler. I think he's going to be a big part of the Chargers offense this year. He's going to be running the ball. He's going to be catching the ball. Hopefully he stays healthy. We love the Chargers. He's a big fantasy option this year. I think he's going to have a big year. So Austin Eckler at 3. Not Cooper Kupp. Maybe /
I can't wait to hear what Vince says.
3, I have AJ Brown.
Oh my God.
I think if this goes the way the Eagles want it to go, he has offensive player of the year potential.
They do try to force feed him. I'll give you that. Like they're going to make sure it is a point of emphasis that he is getting double-digit targets. All right, at 2, I have Naji Harris. I think he's going to lead the league in rushing this year. No matter who the quarterback is in Pittsburgh, they are going to force feed him the ball. I bet there's a lot of checkdowns given the arms there in Pittsburgh. I think Kenny Pickett's going to be good, but I don't know if he's going to be good right away. And the stopgap for that is Naji Harris.
2 for me, it's Devontae Adams. Like you said before, I think the Raiders are going to force feed him. I think Carr, imagine if they played together before. I think they did in college. McDaniels is going to scheme up things for him to get the ball on, whether it's bubble screens, down the field. I think he's going to be a monster this year. I think he's going to love playing for the Raiders. And I think, like I said, they are going to do everything in their possible hands, minds, in the little Mark Davis haircut. They're going to do everything they can to get him the ball as much as possible this year.
2, I have Jamar Chase, solely just based off the fact he gets to wear a white helmet this year. I don't really see who's stopping him in a white helmet.
Fair point. Didn't think about that one. That's true. All right, at 1, offensive player of the year, I have Justin Jefferson. He is on a statistical pace through 2 years with Randy Moss. I think he is still ascending. I understand the concerns of Kirk Cousins, but they took the Rams coaching staff from last year. That's now the coaching staff in Minnesota. And what happened last year with the Rams? Oh, yeah, Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown for receiving. So why doesn't Justin Jefferson just do it this year? He could. So at 1, I have Justin Jefferson.
1 for me, I have Jonathan Taylor, running back from the Colts. I think he's going to have an absolute monster of a season. He can hit long touchdown runs. He can bang it in from the goal line. He can catch the ball. He can block. He can do it all. And I think Matt Ryan being there, big upgrade at quarterback from last year, is going to help this offense out. And I think that's going to open up the running lanes for him as well. I think he's going to have an absolutely monstrous year. I think he leads the league in rushing.
I also have Jonathan Taylor. I think this was a decent team last year with not a great quarterback. So I think with a quarterback upgrade, this team's going to be really good.
People are going to say that I forgot Jonathan Taylor. I want it on record that I did not. He did not. He's 6. He did not crack my top 5.
All right. Well, Vincent, thank you very much. Aidan, that was fun, as always. Always a blast.
That was great. This is like how it should be. Like, I forgot like how this feels. So to have actual football to talk about, to have an interview, to be talking about actual substance with the TikToks, not projection. Like we're basing this off stats and like this is what it's going to look like this year. Like it's fun.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you to everybody for watching, for listening. Make sure you tell all your friends, tell your family. Birds vs. Boys is a podcast for everybody. Even if you're a football novice, come on in. We'll teach you football. Okay. If you don't know anything about it, like that girl that didn't know anything about fantasy football and the guys are trying to talk to her, that's us, but in a non-annoying way. So we're here for you, whether you're a Birds fan, whether you're a Boys fan, or whether you're just a football fan. Hit that subscribe button anywhere you subscribe and listen to podcasts, and make sure you follow us on the YouTube channel, on Twitter, on TikTok, everywhere. We appreciate you all. We will be back next week with hopefully another big guest. But thank you to Kyle Youmans. Thank you to our producer, Vince, 15M. Thank you for producing everything. And we will be back next week. Enjoy the preseason games this weekend.